everybody. On behalf of the Alumni Office, during homecoming week, we're so glad you could join us here for one of our Loma talks. We're very excited to hear from our group over at Mission Valley and hear about some great tips on how to balance going back to school and your everything else you have going on in your life between family and kids and other work and everything. So we're so excited to have you and excited to hear from our panelists today. I wanted to let you know we will be recording this session. So we're going to have it available to everybody in a few days on our website, so you can access it there as well. So yeah, if you haven't already, welcome. And if you want to put your name and either what program you were in or are in and your year, share any information about where you're calling in from in the chat box, that would be great. We'd love to hear from you and get to know everybody who's joining us today. So, we also welcome you to ask any questions throughout the presentation today. If you want to put that in the chat box, and we'll be asking questions at the end of the presentation. So feel free to do that as you're listening from our panelists here. So I want to introduce Nicole Morales. She's our Student Success Team Lead. She'll be introducing our panelists today. So Nicole, take it away.
Thank you, Becca. Yes, we are very excited that all of you guys could join us today. Like she mentioned, I'm one of the student success counselors, and we work primarily with our graduate and adult degree completion students. And the mission of the Center for Student Success is really to journey with all of our students, offering holistic support and Christ-like love as they pursue their goals and callings. And with our work with students, we get to work with so many amazing individuals that are coming back to school while also juggling all these life responsibilities. And so our team is constantly inspired by the motivation, grit, and determination that these students portray in their programs. And so today, we want to give you guys a glimpse into the lives of some of those students. So this is just a handful of our students. You can see their pictures and a little bit about them on the screen right now. But these 5 individuals were handpicked by our student success counselors because we knew what they had to go through to get their degree or while they're finishing up their degree right now. So we are hoping that some of you are probably joining us who are current students and want to hear a little bit more. Hopefully you come away with some tools and some resources to keep you going through the rest of your program. Some of you maybe are joining us because you're thinking about going back to school, finishing your degree, getting a master's degree. And so hopefully this will also inspire you to know, yes, you can do that. No matter what's on your plate now, there is still room for education. And so if you're in neither of those categories, I hope you're just inspired by the stories of these 5 individuals and what they were able to accomplish, what they are accomplishing right now while they're pursuing their dreams and their calling. So I think that's it. Let's go ahead and get a chance to meet each of these people. So I will ask each of our participants, our panelists, to go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know, again, what program you are currently in or if you completed that. And then also share a little bit about what you are juggling if you're still in school or were juggling while you were in school, kind of what was on your plate during that time. So Katie will go ahead and take off the screen and then let Jeff go ahead and get started.
Hey there. So My name is Jeff, and I'm a senior compliance officer at a financial technology startup. I am currently studying my bachelor's in organizational leadership. And the things that I've been juggling during my academic and professional career is on top of an incredibly demanding job as sort of like the lead audit responder, as well as school. I'm also taking additional classes to kind of fill in my last couple of prereqs at a community college. And I am a father of two. So I had a lot of things on my plate, and there's a lot of, it took a lot of work to make sure that I could get here.
Great, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pam Henson. I am a graduate of Point Loma Nazarene University School of Theology, and I graduated December 20th in the year 2020. So anyway, I enjoyed every class and every moment of my participation in the School of Theology. I juggled at that time just, my work, because at that time I was a special education teacher and also included in ministry at my church. And and then, outside other committees and things like that I'm also a part of. I like to be involved with people with mental illness who have drug or alcohol addiction. And so I work with those people as well. And yeah, I guess that's about it.
Awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Kate. It's awesome that you all are here. Wish could see all your faces, but that's fine. I am currently in the BBA program. I'll graduate in August, so there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You don't believe it when you start, but it is there. Yeah, I, similar to kind of everyone, juggle a lot too between work and school, church events, and just living life. But honestly, can't say enough good things about the program. It's been a great experience, and just, it's good to be challenged. So yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Ashley and I attend the School of Education. I am I'm working towards my multi-subject teaching credential and finishing up my bachelor program at the same time. Challenges that I've had while in school is juggling 3 kids. I have a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an 11-year-old. So, and I also live in North County, so I would have to commute to school, and it was always a challenge because me and my husband would switch the kids off in the parking lot and do whatever we could so that I was there and I could finish, or I could keep working towards the end goal, and while working at the same time, essentially.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela Sabito. I graduated this past December with a master's in organizational leadership. During the past year or so, we had to transition as a cohort from meeting in person every week to meeting virtually because of the pandemic. And I'm sure that's something that's affected everyone here to some degree. So definitely struggling with that new circumstance. I was also going through a bunch of different personal issues at home, and definitely juggling what it means to be a student and a full-time worker, and also navigating a lot of different life transitions. But like someone mentioned, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I think it was Kate. And it feels really good to be finished. And I'm really excited to talk about this program and excited you all are here.
Thanks, everybody. It's great to get a little bit of a picture of what you're going through during your program. Next, I'd love to hear from each of you to just share what motivated you to go back to school, either to get your bachelor's or to get your master's degree. And then what was maybe something that made you nervous about going back to school, something that maybe made you think twice about going back, or some of those initial challenges you kind of were up against. Jeff, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, so for me, the reason that I wanted to go back to school was that I was kind of on the fast track in my career, getting promoted and moving up in the company, climbing the corporate ladder. And I noticed that I was kind of getting close to a bit of a ceiling, and that the speed that I was starting to go up was starting to slow down. And the main thing was just not having the degree, the education to match the experience that I had. So realize that, you know, I'm not quite happy with where I am. I just want to keep getting higher. And in order to do that, I need that education. And so that was where I decided to go back to school. Nothing per se made me nervous going in. I've always been a fairly organized person, so it just seemed like it would be a little bit less free time on my end. What did make me nervous was that in light of the pandemic and a couple of other things, like my second daughter was born halfway through my program. The pandemic hit, and I lost 2 of my team members right away. And then I lost another 2 team members over the course of the next couple of months, which increased my workload at work incredibly high. And so, you know, that was when I started getting nervous, was like, can I continue to meet the obligations at school that I need to, despite all of these other things that are starting to kind of happen in my life? So, yeah.
Very real. Pamela.
Okay, you know, being the type of situation where I was going to be learning about scripture and praying and, you know, all those kinds of great things, I really was excited for my new beginning in the School of Theology. Also, because of my age, I have not known very many people in their 60s to go back to school. But, you know, I really believe that when God calls you to do something, He doesn't care about how old you are. He cares about your obedience. And I've suffered in the past from that Jonah experience, you know, where I'm always running and then I have the consequences to deal with because I wasn't obedient. But this time I said, okay, I will do it. You lead the way, God, and I will follow. And so I started the School of Theology. At that time, my mom had passed away. I had to prepare for her funeral, and that was a tough thing as well. I know she's watching. I know she's proud of me and my accomplishment. Her dad was a Baptist minister, and her grandmother on her mother's side was the first African American minister in Little Rock, Arkansas. This was like in the early 50s. So I kind of feel like, you know, I have a legacy before me, and I'm going to continue that legacy. Anyway, so I guess, yeah, that's it. My age, my first formal Christian education, and then dealing with the death of my mom.
Thank you. It's touching.
Dang, rock and roll, Pamela. Love that. Read the chats. Everyone's cheering you on. Gosh, so for me, there was no real rhyme or reason. It's just kind of the natural next step, going to a bachelor's and whatever comes after that. Graduated high school in 2016, so I don't have the story where I'm coming back to school. I'm just still in school. So yeah, just the natural next step. Any nerves? Not anything specific. I think just kind of the excitement and anticipation and just wanting to do it well. I was fortunate enough to go to a private school, so I had pretty rigorous education in that. And then when I transferred from Miracosta, so anything, I think I was a little nervous to get back into more of a rigorous education. Excited for that, but knew it would be challenging. But yeah, that's kind of pretty simple.
So I also transferred from Miracosta College, and I had gone to cosmetology school after high school and started a career as a barber and a salon manager. And I worked my way up really fast. And after a while, I realized I wanted to go back to school, and I wanted a career that would be more fulfilling and have a greater purpose. And I had no idea where that would take me. I changed my major quite a few times, and then I started spending time in my mom's special ed class, and I fell in love with her kiddos. And then I started volunteering more in my own kids' classrooms, and then I realized, like, I could make a career out of this, and I could get paid for all the time that I spend in the classroom. So I finished out Miracosta College and then transferred to Point Loma. And I was afraid to fail. I am notorious for taking on too many things at one time. And all three of my kids play sports, or they did before COVID. And I didn't know how I was going to juggle it all. And that's what scared me the most, because I like to get good grades and I like to really dig in when I'm involved. But when there's a will, there's a way, and it will get done. And this is where God wanted me to be, and I still don't know what the future holds, but I'm super excited to be on this path and be at Point Loma and finish school by the end of this year.
For me, I think that when I was trying to decide whether or not to go back to school, it had been 5 years since my undergrad, and I was thinking a ton about what I wanted to do next. And I was working in education for a little bit, and I wanted to figure out how to better serve the people around me. So I was initially really interested in the organizational leadership program, and as I met with faculty and heard about other alums' experiences, I found out that it was exactly the place that I wanted to be. And I was always drawn to leaders and how they move people towards a specific vision, and how they build relationships with people around them, and how they impact their communities. And I wanted to learn how to be a more effective leader, and how to better develop leaders around me and help them affect change. And so it was an easy choice committing to the program. And it's definitely a whole journey. I think I was nervous about being a student again, and navigating that, while also navigating all the challenges that come with working full time. And I don't have a family to take care of, so I'm really lucky in that aspect. But I think the past year and a half was a lot of me asking questions to myself and trying to figure out what it is that I really wanted, and how I could use what I learned from the program when I graduated. So it was really a time of real introspection and getting really clear on my vision for myself. And so I think in the beginning it was nerve-wracking starting the journey, but I'm so glad that I got through it. And I'm able to walk away with much more clarity and much more intention.
Thank you, everybody. Those are great. Really inspiring, each of you and each of your stories. So Pamela, I want to ask you, you kind of mentioned this in what you were nervous about, what was going on in your life as you got started, but what do you think the biggest challenge was that you faced during your program?
Well, other than the things that I already mentioned, I think getting organized was very important as well. And that includes staying in contact as much as possible with the other people that are in the program. You know, you can't do it by yourself. The professors were very focused and present if I needed any help. I remember one time probably talking too much in class one day, and I said to the professor, "Did I talk too much?" And he said, "It's your story, honey. You tell your story." And that was the first time I realized, oh, I have a story. And so then I went about, talking with people about my story. But my self-esteem grew a lot in the program. And I think just be ready for any transformation that God has for you in your educational journey, and be willing to receive it in love.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Right, Ashley, you mentioned you had 3 kids at home. I know when we talked earlier, your husband also works crazy hours. So what was one thing that you did at home that made you successful in your schoolwork?
I continue to be the master organizer that I am. Some call it OCD, but I just want to say I'm really organized, and I feel like when you have a big family, you have to be. And my husband works like 6 days a week, 10 to 12-hour days. So pretty much picking up the kids, doing everything for them, it's on me. He's home on Sundays. So I knew that I had to stay organized, and I tried to keep as much of a normal program for everybody as I could. I didn't want anything to change for my kids or for them to be negatively affected by me doing something for myself, which was continuing my education. I made sure that I still make sure that every night I set aside a chunk of time where I can just go hide in my room and do what I need to do. I look at the Canvas calendar a lot for the next day or whatever I have due for the week. I have my own to-do list. They're always running, plus my own calendar. And I just make sure that I really stay on top of everything at all times. And if I have a question, I make sure to reach out to my professors, and they have been amazing. Most of them will even give you their cell phone number and say, hey, text me if you need something. They want to see you be successful. So just staying organized is a huge part of who I am and a huge part of my success. And because I've been so on top of it through being organized, I am able to get the most out of my education and really get the grades that I would like to get.
That's great. That's awesome. All right, Jeff, you also have been juggling a lot. You mentioned earlier that you guys brought a new baby into your home during your program. That is obviously not easy. And then you also had a demanding career. So talk to us about, how did you find balance? How did you find not just time for your schoolwork, but time for your own health and well-being?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's like Pamela was saying, is that you can't do it by yourself. You do rely on other people. And I certainly could not have done it without my wife, who is just absolutely just an amazing human being. She is so smart. She has so much drive and initiative. She can take care of so many different things that a lot of times there wasn't a lot of extra that I had to worry about outside of my school and work and my kids. A lot of the other stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, she would just be able to take on and take care of that, so I could focus more on these areas. What it really comes down to finding that balance is really the key to it is honesty, and it's honesty with yourself. It's honesty with your support network, with your professors, and with your counselor, your program director. And what I mean by that is that when everything was really going wrong, like when COVID first hit, and that was right at the time my daughter was only a month old, and I just lost 2 of my teammates and would have to absorb their work. I looked at it and I was honest with myself, that was saying, I'm a very gritty individual. I'm a very can-do person, but the workload of everything that I have right now, I cannot do it. Like, I'm not going to be able to. And so I reached out to Amber and I reached out to Dr. Bay, and I told them my situation, and I had to put my school on hold for a semester. I had to take a semester off so that I could get everything else in my life caught up. And I'm glad that I did that, because coming back in, I've been able to handle and pick up everything. But just seeing how much work I had to do in that next semester that would have been coming, there was no way I would have been able to handle that with everything else that was going on. But also, what's most important is being honest with yourself, and in setting up things like a schedule. So when you have this many things, you have to set aside time for each one. You have to say, between these times, I have to work on schoolwork. And so you can't get distracted watching YouTube or Netflix or things like that. Like, it's schoolwork. That is what I'm working on. When I'm at work, I'm at work. I have this time before my kids go to bed that I can hang out with them and play with them and things like that before they go to sleep, and I can pick school back up again. And you have to put things into the schedule, because as soon as you start blending and moving things around, that's when you risk things falling between the cracks. And there's just no other way to juggle as many things as you know, like Ashley was talking about, or what Pamela was talking about, and be able to do that otherwise.
That's great. I love your example of just being honest with yourself, being honest with your support, being honest with your professors, your classmates. And it made me think, like, we've been using the word juggling in the title of this and throughout this time. And student success counselors sometimes use this analogy of we're all juggling glass and rubber balls. And each of us, the glass might be different for each of us, and things that can't break, that we can't let go of. And so for all of you, it's a lot of work, family, and then school. But your example, Jeff, that there was a moment where school became a rubber ball, and you let that drop, and then it bounced right back in, and now you're juggling it. It's right back into your juggle. But it's being honest with ourselves of what's a glass ball, what's a rubber ball, what is something that we need to let drop for a moment. But there's some things like your health, your work, your family, those can't break, and you need to make sure you're taking care of that. So,
and it's about having that open and honest conversation just with yourself, like just being candid. Like, that's what helps you identify which ones are rubber and which ones are glass.
Yeah, that's great. So a couple of you guys have talked about your support systems. Kate, I'd love to hear a little bit more about who was a great support to you, and how have you been leaning on your supports during your program?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like this is kind of going to be an echo of what a lot of people have said, but professors and classmates, I say that large in part because those were the two systems that I used. You are completely surrounded with an entire group of people that wants to set you up for success. So whether it's your student success counselor, like there's so many people, I just happen to use professors and classmates, but they were awesome. And I think it was Ashley, someone mentioned that they give you like literally their cell phone number so you can text them, and they're so available. And then classmates, I mean, the cohort model is so awesome, and you're in the trenches with however many other people are in your cohort. So use each other at the beginning, just get to know the people there. And I mean, you're going to have different strengths and weaknesses, work off each other. I mean, that's teamwork, and it's awesome. Work together. Ask questions. And yeah, I think professors, and then obviously my family personally has just been awesome support. So know who's going to be the people in your life that are going to cheer you on, and just, rock and roll.
That's great. I want to open it up to anybody else who wants to talk about the support, the people that you relied on, but also if there was any other kind of tools or tricks or things that you did that were especially helpful for your success.
Was my answer that good?
So good.
Just kidding.
Nobody else has anything to share.
To chime in the cohorts, it really is helpful. I felt so connected with the people who were in my cohort because they're there for the same reason that you're there. Their end goal is similar to yours or the same. And so everybody is really in it to get the most out of it, and it makes your classes just fly by. So having a good support system at school who will cover for you if you're not there, or help you with your notes, or whatever it is, like the friends you make are really important there.
One of the things that I did, only because during this journey, I paid for my degree. In the past, I've experienced grants and, loans and things like that, but this time I didn't. And so when it came to purchasing the books, I thought, I'm not so sure I'm going to be able to pay for all these books, coming in from Amazon. So one of the things that I did was I bought books on Kindle. And I know that, that's probably not a good thing. I don't know. I'm not real sure. But it really helped me to be able to access my text, quickly. I knew where it was. It's not like I have a lot of books in my house right now. And so it's like sometimes I put books somewhere and I don't remember where I put them. But anyway, having books on Kindle they're only like a fourth of the cost. That was the thing I wanted to say. So I really liked it. Then I found out other people were doing it too. So I was like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
I second that. Pamela, I also bought lots of my books on Kindle and on my devices instead of ordering the hard copies, and it was a lot cheaper. On the topic of support systems, I also learned, there's like a bunch of dogs barking in the background, sorry. I also learned that it's okay to ask for support. I was one of those students that wanted to be on top of everything always and didn't want to depend on anyone, or felt like reaching out and asking for help made me less of a student. But it's so important to, like Jeff mentioned, to be honest with yourself, right? And to have those conversations and realize when you're just going through it and you just need an extension on assignment, or if you don't know how to answer a discussion question, reaching out to someone in your cohort and asking for their input or for their suggestions. So just really understanding where you're at, and understanding that asking for support, it's not a bad thing necessarily, even if it feels like it is a bad thing, it's not.
Mm-hmm. It's such a true point, Michaela, because we see this all the time as adults when we are successful individuals, right? We're successful in our careers, at home, with what we've been doing up until now. And then we get into a situation where we're in school and it's like, I should know this, like, or I should be able to do this, and it doesn't mean that you're not a successful person or highly capable when we ask for help. But it is sometimes, just stepping into that vulnerability of saying, okay, I don't understand this assignment, or I don't totally know what I'm doing. It doesn't make you less successful or less capable of a person. So
I want to add to that. Sorry, I'm late coming because I was teaching. But I'm 41. And I got my degree at UCLA when I was 22. So I have come back and I'm teaching now for family reasons. And so I'm teaching while I'm getting my credential at Point Loma. And the difference between being a college student at 20 and the college student at 40 is that I realized I don't know everything. And why on earth would I know everything? And that asking questions and being the one that is like the annoying student that's like, okay, what, and then also asking other students, and then just as many people as I can take their brain and put it in my brain as possible. That's true wisdom. And I wish I could have done that at 20 years old, not thinking when I spoke up, that meant that I was ignorant. I'm like, no, that means that you're willingly wanting to learn. So I don't know, I heard some of you guys are younger, and I if I were to put my you know, journey into one word, it would be ask. You know?
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Michaela, I want to follow up with you. What is one piece of advice too that you would give to students currently in school or people that are considering going back to school?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give incoming students and students who are still in school is just to have a lot of compassion and patience for yourself. Just because it is a whole journey, and there are going to be times, like we've already talked about, where you're going to need extra support, or you're going to come up with a schedule and be super organized and try to get everything done, but you are falling behind and you're not quite where you want to be, or you turn something in and it's not perfect and the perfectionist in you is screaming. But it's not necessarily about getting like 100% in each course. It's what you take away. And I've had so many conversations with my cohort members after we've graduated. And what I remember the most is all the different little bits of insight that I've gained from connecting with these people, and then all the different discussions I've had with my professors. So really just remembering and reminding yourself why you are going into school and why you're in school in the first place and what you're hoping to gain from it, and not necessarily just focusing on meeting deadlines or getting perfect scores on everything, because really what you take away from the program are all the conversations and the little tidbits of information that stay with you. Even if you're not exactly perfect or on top of everything always, that's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's not something you should necessarily punish yourself for. I did a lot of I had a lot of those chats with myself during the program, especially near the end when things get a little overwhelming or a little stressful because of all the papers and final projects and things like that. But it's important to treat yourself kindly and remember why you're there.
Mm-hmm. Being honest with yourself too, right? Jeff said. All right. Anyone can answer this one in our panel, any of our panelists. What's one thing that you wish you would have known on the first day of school? Now that you look back at that.
I guess I would have liked to know that it's not scary to start back at college when you're not 18, 19 years old. I'm 30, so I feel like I'm in between, but I was scared. I felt like all these kids were coming straight from maybe high school or straight from their bachelor program who are in their masters, and they were fresh with knowledge, and sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to think about things and get back into our groove, but the groove comes back for sure.
I love that. The groove comes back. Great. Anyone else have a message for yourself on that first day?
Maybe I would say, like, maybe this is more of like a strategy thing, but there's going to be a lot of group work. So just like jump in and getting to know your classmates. I think I would have done that a little bit better. I mean, naturally over the course of time, you get to know who's in your class, but be the one to just initiate asking questions or getting to know people, because you will be stuck with them and you need to kind of know how people do things, just even for setting yourself up for success. But maybe just practically and a little strategy there, kind of get to know the people.
Yeah, that's great.
I would recommend saving everything. So if you have like a really cool conversation with someone in your cohort and it's something that you want to remember, like jot something down, take notes. For every assignment you turn in, most of the time we save a copy, but we had like discussion posts in Canvas that we had a couple every week, and I didn't save some of those responses in a different folder, but like saving everything and organizing it along the way makes it so much easier when you look back and have to do like a final presentation. And like, I know there were points where I was just like, I remember talking to someone about this and I want to make this point in my final presentation, but I don't remember the exact words that were said and they were so good. So just anytime you feel like you've gained some insight or learned something new or have something interesting that you want to remember for later, save it somewhere and file it away for later. Especially when you graduate and look back, it'll be really helpful and fulfilling to see kind of the journey of your work and also all the different things that you've learned cataloged.
Yeah, I know. I remember going through my program and partway through, I was like, I created a quote document from my cohort because I had so many amazing people in my cohort that I was learning so much from. I'm like, I want to document this. So I remember the same feeling. So, all right, Pamela and Michaela, both of you just finished in December. Congratulations. I know we have not been able to formally congratulate you with a formal graduation ceremony because of COVID. Let's hope that is coming soon. But how did it feel to finish, to finally earn your degree? Pamela, you want to start?
You know, I was always so busy that finally when I had nothing to do, I was lost. I was like, what do I do? You know what? I'm just going to read any book because I was always reading. That finally there was no mandatory reading. I said, okay, I'm just going to read because I didn't know what else to do. It really still hasn't hit me yet, I don't think. And I believe that part of that is because of the pandemic and that I'm not able to see my family like I would like to. Although my sister sent me 4 dozens of roses. And so I have all these roses in my house because they're very proud of me and they wanted to express their love and support for my accomplishments. So
awesome. I'm glad you were celebrated in some way. That's awesome. Michaela.
I don't think it's hit me either. It's still so fresh. And I say that like 2 months later. But I also, in a similar way, went through that kind of feeling. Like, what do I do now? I have so much free time. I can have hobbies again. I can read things for fun. Not that the reading for my program wasn't fun, but I can read other things. And so figuring out what to do with all that free time was kind of daunting, but also I'm just full of gratitude for the experience and for what it's taught me. And also really grateful to be the first person in my family to get a master's degree. And it's a huge accomplishment. And I've been chatting with the other members of my cohort about it, and it doesn't quite feel real because we haven't walked across that stage, but it also just feels really good. And like a big weight has been lifted off our shoulders. Like we finally got through it and saw the light at the end of the tunnel and made it through. And it was great. And I'm just so happy and grateful for the experience.
Awesome. Great. All right, Becca, are there any other questions in the chat from people watching?
Yes, so we have a few questions here. One of the first questions is, when you were having a hard time and maybe doubting your decision to go back to school, what kept or keeps you going? How do you stay motivated?
Great question. Anybody want to take that one?
I can jump in on this one. To me, I've always found motivation to be more internal than external. Like to try and like force yourself to be motivated is very difficult. So a lot of what I did to keep going when things were getting tough was it's this principle called the 1 minute principle, that if you try to like do something for like, I need to sit down and write this essay for like the next 4 hours, that's really, really hard to do. But if you just look at things like, I just need to work on this for 1 more minute, I just need to work on this for 5 more minutes. And when you just look at those, like almost like a marathon runner, when you're just looking at those small little milestones, you make a lot more progress, and it doesn't seem to like take as much willpower because you're only focusing on using a little bit of it at a time.
That's great. I'm gonna call out
I totally agree with Jeff on that. I think I just kind of happened upon that process. I sat down to work on a paper, and then I don't know, maybe I decided to go wash the dishes or something. And then when I came back to my paper, it was like I had fresh eyes, you know. I had a new perspective on what I wanted to say. And I loved that process. So I never really felt pressured. I got to get this done right now, this minute, within this, you know. I always gave myself some time to progress and work through. And I'm doing the same thing for my graduate school preparation. There's a lot of writing samples that you have to send to the universities. And I'm doing the exact same thing, Jeff. I'm not saying, okay, I got to get this done in 4 hours. You know, I'm just working my way gradually, coming back with fresh eyes and a new perspective at what I'm working on.
Yeah, it's something I learned from one of my first jobs was roofing, and it was like, I've got to bring all these shingles up to that roof, and you just take one package at a time up that ladder, and by the end of the day, you have brought 1,500 pounds of shingles up and down the ladder.
That's right.
That's great. All right. Is there another question, Becca?
Yep. So another question is, what are some resources you felt were helpful in aiding in your success?
Yeah, you guys talked a lot about the cohort, the professors, but what were some other resources, either with Point Loma or outside, that were helpful?
So I have a couple, one resource that I use outside of Point Loma, which would be, I try and utilize, since I'm in the School of Education, I've made friends with a lot of teachers, admin, my mom, my neighbor is a retired principal, my other neighbor is a retired teacher. So I really try to utilize everybody that I know who is in the career or was in the career that I'm going to, because they are filled with so much wisdom, and they're not just book smart, they have the real life reality of what's going on in our schools right now, mixed with the 21st century teaching skills. So just picking their brain, anyone that you can find that is in the career you're looking for, like just pick their knowledge and try and get everything you can out of having a friendship with them.
Great.
I don't know if it's a resource, but stay faithful. Stay faithful in your journey. I met people who told me, don't you think you're too old? And I think that's why I bring up age, is because I've had people confront me and say, why don't you just kick back and relax? And I'm like, what? Who says I'm not? So, just stay faithful, stay to thine own self, be true. I think that's very important to do.
That's great.
All right, we've got one more question here. When balancing work, personal life, school, what are some self-care tips or ideas that have helped you during your journey that you could share with those of us that will be returning to school after a couple of years?
I think very practically, like you're gonna be on a computer screen all the time and your nose in a book constantly, but your brain also needs just outside fuel. So go for like a short walk, or just take little pockets of time where you do just like little simple practices like that, because it kind of helps your brain chew on what you're learning, and it just kind of clears your mind and makes you feel better, and it'll make things a lot less daunting, because there is a lot but that's okay. It's supposed to be hard. That's okay. But yeah, just like little walks, find what you enjoy and do little times of that.
I love that you're like exemplifying that by being on this Zoom outside. Like that's a great example, right? Like
it feels so much better.
Yeah, great advice. So anybody else? What have you done to take care of yourself?
I think also scheduling time for self-care is important. A lot of the times I would just tell myself, okay, if I have extra time, I'll do this. Like I'll take a break and take a nap or read a book for fun or take a walk. And then it never ended up happening because I would prioritize other things. But if you put it in your schedule, like 10 minutes or like 20 minutes of time to do something that's not school or work related, that's what really saved me and helped me deal with a lot of the stress, because you need that time to disconnect for sure.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, and to go one step further from what Michaela is saying is that when you do have that time for self-care, it means it's going to be in your schedule somewhere, and don't focus on the end. Like, I have 20 minutes for self-care. Oh man, I've only got 20 minutes. And the whole time you're looking at the clock for when you have to switch to the next task. When you're in that self-care mode, that's when you put your phone down, you don't look at your clocks, and you just enjoy the time that you have before you move on to that next task. And it'll make it, where it sinks in a lot better. And it makes you not so anxious.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I think with what Pamela was saying earlier, when she would like be focused on her assignment and go do something else, right? If you go do that walk or whatever it is, you come back with fresh eyes and a fresh motivation and ideas. And I think it's really helpful to balance that.
So exercise is important. With all the reading and all the writing. Yeah. I'm very blessed because I have a stationary bike and I have an elliptical machine. My dining room is also my exercise room. So, I have no reason for not being able to physically be active. And so I think that that's also important, to have some physical engagement and keep your mind alert.
Great. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Becca, was there any last questions or should we wrap this up?
Yeah, that was all the questions.
I want to say congratulations to Michaela, because I know what it's like to be the first person in your family to accomplish something. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when the other family members are watching it, you don't really know what they're thinking or what they're going through, but you really are speaking volumes to them. And so congratulations on your accomplishment. I hope you have many more to come.
Thank you so much, Pamela, and congrats to you too.
Thank you.
I hope all of you panelists are watching the chat, because you guys are getting some amazing love. Myra mentioned that she's been close to tears listening to you guys. I have gotten that way too, just such pride in the amazing, inspirational people that each of you are. So this today has been an amazing example of why each of us student success counselors do what we do, because you guys are the reason that we are motivated and excited to go to work every day, because we get to work with all of you guys who are just an amazing example of the students that we get to work with and are accomplishing so much. Some of you are trailblazers for your family and just doing so much for your careers and for yourselves. So Jeff, Pamela, Kate, Ashley, Michaela, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us, being vulnerable and inspiring all of us. I think all of us who are on here, no matter where we're at, if we're done with our education journey for now, or going back to school or in the midst of school, I think we were all very, very inspired. So I know that each of the student success counselors are very proud of you. So Becca, I will turn it back over to you to wrap this up from the alumni office.
All right. Thank you guys again, everyone who's been joining us today and the panelists. So appreciate hearing your stories and perspective. I've learned so much as well, and it actually doesn't seem so scary going back to school, hearing from you. So that's great. And I'm thankful for the graduate and adult degree completion program staff and everyone who was here and moderating. And I think this is a very valuable time that we're able to hear from you and be encouraged. And thank you for your time. I know everyone's got so much going on, and so we do appreciate that you took the time out of your busy schedules and lives to be a part of this and share your stories with us. So we hope to see you at some of our weekend homecoming events that we have going on. Check it out on the website, and we'll have this information up, and the video, I'm sorry, up on the website in a couple of days. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.